My 11-year-old came home, but her key didn't fit. She waited in the rain for 5 hours while my mother yelled, "You and your dad don't live here anymore." When my daughter told me, I didn't shout. I just said, "Understood." 3 days later, my mother called me with her lawyer, screaming and panicking. I found my daughter sitting on the hallway floor outside my apartment at 6:47 p.m., soaking wet, shivering so hard her teeth were chattering. Water pooled around her backpack. Her lips had a bluish tint. "Baby, what happened? Why didn't you use your key?" She looked up at me with those big brown eyes. "My eyes," her mother used to say, and whispered, "My key didn't work at Grandma's. The lock was different." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean, different?" "She changed it." Emma's voice was so small. "I knocked and knocked, and she looked out the upstairs window and yelled that we don't live there anymore. She said you're a deadbeat, and I should go find you." I knelt down, touching her ice-cold hands. "How long were you out there?" "Since school ended. Around 2. 5 hours. My 11-year-old daughter had stood in the rain for 5 hours at the house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 15 years. The house my mother lived in, rent-free. The house that was in my name. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the wall like some part of me wanted to. I just said, very quietly, "Understood." Emma looked confused by how calm I was. She didn't understand that fury this cold doesn't explode outward. It doesn't make noise. It calculates. "Did anyone help you?" I asked, wrapping her in my jacket and guiding her inside. Mrs. Chen next door finally saw me around 6. She let me come inside and dry off a little. She gave me $20 for the bus and her old umbrella. Emma pulled a crumpled 20 from her wet pocket. "I need to pay her back." "We will," I promised. "Tomorrow." I got her into a hot shower immediately. While she warmed up, I made hot chocolate and ordered pizza. Her favorite, the expensive kind with the stuffed crust I usually couldn't justify. Tonight, I didn't care about the cost. I checked her temperature, 96.88 degrees. Not quite hypothermia, but close enough to scare me. When she came out in dry clothes, wrapped in 2 blankets, I sat with her and we ate pizza in silence for a while. Then I asked gently, "Did Grandma say anything else?" Emma nodded, not meeting my eyes. "She said I was just like you, a burden. She said she raised you alone and you turned into an ungrateful deadbeat, and now you're raising me to be the same." Her voice cracked. "Dad, what's a deadbeat?" Something inside my chest cracked too. "It's nothing you need to worry about, sweetheart. Grandma was wrong about both of us. Are we going to be okay?" I pulled her close. "Yeah, baby. We're going to be fine. Better than fine." I tucked her into bed early, told her to stay home from school tomorrow if she didn't feel well, promised her everything would be okay. She fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted. Then I went to my filing cabinet. See, my mother didn't know something important, something I'd never bothered to explain because I'd never thought I'd need to. The house, that beautiful 3-bedroom colonial at 847 Maple Street, wasn't my mother's house where I'd grown up. It was a house I'd bought for her after my father died. I pulled out the deed. My name, clear as day, Marcus David Chen, sole owner. Purchased October 15th, 2009, for $285,000. I'd been 26 years old, newly promoted to senior software engineer, making good money for the first time in my life. Dad had just died of a heart attack at 53, leaving Mom with nothing but debt and a rental apartment she couldn't afford. She'd sobbed on my couch for 3 hours. "I can't do this alone," she'd said. "I can't afford rent anywhere decent. Your father left me nothing. So I'd done what I thought a good son should do. I'd bought her a house, paid the down payment, $57,000, wiping out my entire savings, taken on a 30-year mortgage at 5.2% interest. Put only my name on the deed because my mother's credit was shot and she couldn't qualify. Just temporary, she'd said, until I get back on my feet. Then I'll start contributing. That was 15 years ago. She'd never contributed, not once. Not to the mortgage, not to property taxes, not to repairs or utilities or homeowner's insurance. I'd paid it all, every month. $1,147 $30,000 mortgage payments, $380 in property taxes monthly, $145 for insurance. That was $2,272.32 every single month for 180 months. I did the math on my calculator. $426,117.60, $426,000 plus the down payment, $483,817.60 total, and she'd just locked my daughter out in the rain and called me a deadbeat. I made 2 phone calls that night. The first was to Mrs. Chen. "Mr. Chen, is Emma okay? I was so worried." "She's fine, thank you." "Mrs. Chen, I need to ask you something. My mother, has she been saying things about me to the neighbors?" A long pause. "I don't like to gossip, please. It's important. She's been telling everyone you abandoned her, that you never visit, never help her, that she's struggling to survive on her own. She said you took your daughter away from her and only bring her around when you need a babysitter." Another pause. "Mr. Chen, I'm sorry, but when I saw Emma today standing in the rain, I realized your mother isn't telling the truth, is she?" "No, ma'am, she's not." "I thought so. A deadbeat father doesn't raise a child as polite and well cared for as Emma. And I've seen the mortgage statements in your mailbox when I pick up packages for you. I know who's paying for that house. Thank you for helping my daughter today. Of course, she's a sweet girl. If you need anything at all, you let me know." The second call was to my lawyer. I left a voicemail. "Robert, it's Marcus Chen. I need to talk to you first thing tomorrow morning. It's urgent. Family matter." there. Then I sat in my small one-bedroom apartment, the apartment I'd been living in for 3 years, splitting a bedroom with my daughter, sleeping on a pull-out couch so she could have the actual bed, and I planned. My mother lived in a 3-bedroom house with a finished basement, a 2-car garage, and a half-acre backyard, alone. I lived with my daughter in 650 square feet because I couldn't afford anything bigger after paying my mother's mortgage. Emma and I shared a bathroom. We had no dishwasher, no laundry-in unit. We went to the laundromat every Sunday. My mother had central air, a brand new washer and dryer I'd bought her 2 years ago, and a 65-inch TV I'd gotten her for Christmas. I owned a 12-year-old Honda Civic with 180,000 miles. My mother drove a 2019 Toyota Camry, which I'd co-signed for, which I was making the payments on because she couldn't afford it right now. The math was so clear, suddenly, so brutally clear. I'd been subsidizing her entire life while my daughter and I lived in poverty, and she'd thanked me by locking Emma out in the rain. Robert Vasquez called me at 7:03 a.m. the next morning. "Marcus, got your message? What's going on?" I told him everything. The house, the 15 years of payments, Emma standing in the rain for 5 hours, the changed locks. Jesus Christ, Robert muttered. "Okay, first question. Is your mother on the deed?" "No, just me." "Does she have any lease agreement with you? Anything in writing?" "Nothing." "Has she ever paid rent? Contributed to the mortgage?" "Not a cent." "Then this is straightforward. She's legally a guest in your home. You can evict her. Given what happened to your daughter, we can file an emergency eviction and have her out in 2 weeks instead of the standard 30 days. How fast can you file?" "I can have the paperwork ready by this afternoon." "But Marcus, are you sure? This is your mother. She endangered my child." "I'm sure." "Understood. I'll get started." I called in sick to work. Then I called Emma's school and told them she wouldn't be in. She'd been caught in the rain, and I was keeping her home to rest. The school nurse, Mrs. Patterson, said that was wise, and to call if Emma developed any symptoms of illness. Emma slept until almost noon. When she woke up, I made her scrambled eggs and toast. She seemed okay. No fever, no cough, just tired. "Dad, are we going to see Grandma soon?" "Not for a while, baby." "Is she mad at us?" "Grandma made some bad choices, but that's not your fault. None of this is your fault, okay?" She nodded, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. She was 11. She didn't understand how family could be cruel. I hoped she'd never have to fully understand. That afternoon, while Emma watched a movie, I drove to 847 Maple Street. My mother's car was gone. She had her book club on Thursday afternoons, I remembered. Same schedule for 10 years. I called the locksmith I'd already researched that morning. "How fast can you get here?" "I can be there in 20 minutes. "Perfect." Jake Morrison, the locksmith, was a guy in his 40s with a military tattoo and a no-nonsense attitude. "Changing your locks?" "It's my house. She changed them on me. I'm changing them back." He looked at the property records I showed him on my phone. My name on the deed. "Got it. This happens more than you'd think. Family stuff gets messy." It took him 30 minutes to change all the locks. Front door, back door, garage door. I paid him $340 in cash. Then I went inside. The house looked exactly like it always had. The couch I'd bought her 5 years ago, $20,100 at Ashley Furniture. The dining room set I'd gotten her from Pottery Barn, $3,800. The bedroom furniture, the lamps, the coffee maker, the pots and pans. I'd bought all of it. I started packing. I wasn't cruel about it. I carefully folded her clothes, wrapped her picture frames in newspaper, boxed up her personal documents and photo albums. Everything that was actually hers. The things she'd owned before I bought this house. The gifts from friends, her jewelry from my father. I packed carefully and labeled clearly, but everything I'd purchased, that came with me. I loaded my Honda with boxes on the first trip. Then I rented a U-Haul van for $79.99 and came back for the furniture. The TV, the couch, the dining room set, the bedroom furniture, the washer and dryer, the kitchen appliances, all of it. I left her with a sleeping bag, some folding chairs, and a card table from the garage. The absolute basics. I also left her with exactly what she'd brought into this house 15 years ago. Almost nothing. It took me 4 trips and 6 hours, but by 7 p.m., my mother's house was empty except for her boxed belongings stacked neatly in the living room, her clothes hanging in the closet, and the bare minimum furniture to survive. I put the eviction notice on the front door, along with Robert's business card and a note in my handwriting. "You have 14 days to vacate this property. After that, the sheriff will remove you. Contact my lawyer with any questions. Do not contact me directly." Then I changed the locks back to the new ones Jake had installed, and I left. My mother called at 8:43 p.m. I was eating dinner with Emma. Chinese takeout, another rare treat. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 8:46, 8:51, 8:55. On the 4th call, I answered. Put it on speaker so I'd have a witness. Emma was at the table, though I'd mute my end if the conversation got too heated. "You can't do this. This is my home." "No," I said calmly. "It's my house. You were a guest. Guests don't lock out 11-year-olds in the rain." "She's fine. Stop being so dramatic. It was barely sprinkling." I almost laughed. "Emma stood outside for 5 hours in a thunderstorm. Mrs. Chen had to rescue her. She came home with hypothermia symptoms. She's 11. She could have figured something out. Gone to a friend's house. She tried knocking on your door for an hour first. You looked out the window and screamed at her. I was angry. You haven't visited in 3 weeks. You just drop her off and leave like I'm a free babysitter. I've been working 60-hour weeks to pay your mortgage. The mortgage on the house you just locked my daughter out of. You can't evict me. I have rights. I've lived here for 15 years. Actually, you don't. You're not on the deed. You've never paid a single mortgage payment. You have no lease agreement. My lawyer checked everything. You have 14 days. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Maybe one of your book club friends will take you in? The ones you've been telling that I'm a deadbeat who abandoned you? Silence. Mrs. Chen told me everything. How you've been bad-mouthing me to the neighbors for months, telling everyone I dumped you in that house and never visit, never help. Meanwhile, I've paid almost $500,000 over 15 years to keep you comfortable. That's an exaggeration. $483,117.60. I did the math. Down payment, mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, repairs, appliances, furniture, your car payments. Want me to email you the spreadsheet? More silence. You have 14 days, I repeated. After that, the sheriff will remove you. Contact my lawyer with questions. Please. Her voice changed. Higher, shakier, the manipulative voice. Please, Marcus, I'm your mother. I raised you alone after your father died. You can't do this to me. You're right. You did raise me alone, and I bought you a house, paid for it for 15 years, let you live completely free, and you repaid me by abusing my daughter. I didn't abuse her. Don't you dare say that. You left an 11-year-old child outside in a thunderstorm for 5 hours because you were mad at me. She could have gotten hypothermia. She could have been taken by someone, but you didn't care. You looked out the window and yelled at her. I'm sorry. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. Tell it to the judge if you contest the eviction. I hung up. She called back immediately. I declined. She called again and again. I blocked her number. The next morning, Friday, Robert called with an update. Eviction paperwork is filed. She has until December 20th to vacate. That's 14 days from now. I expedited it based on the child endangerment angle. What if she refuses to leave? Then on December 21st, the sheriff's department will forcibly remove her and her belongings. They'll put her stuff on the curb and change the locks. It's not pretty, but it's legal. Good. Marcus, be prepared. She's probably going to fight this. Get a lawyer, make accusations, try to claim tenants' rights. She can try. I have the deed. I have 15 years of bank records showing I paid everything. I have text messages from her asking for money. I have testimony from Mrs. Chen about Emma being locked out. What does she have? Probably nothing. But desperate people do desperate things. He was right. That afternoon, my phone rang from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mr. Chen, this is attorney Michelle Parks. I've been retained by Mrs. Sandra Chen to represent her in the eviction matter. My mother was screaming in the background. Tell him he can't do this. Tell him it's illegal. Mrs. Chen, please, the lawyer said firmly. Then, back to me. Mr. Chen, I need to ask you some questions to assess the situation. First, is it true that you're the sole owner of the property at 847 Maple Street? Yes, my name is the only name on the deed. And your mother has no written lease agreement with you? Correct. Has she ever paid rent or contributed to the mortgage? Never. Not once in 15 years. I see. A long pause. Mr. Chen, I'm going to be direct with you. After reviewing the preliminary facts, I need to inform you that I'll be withdrawing from this case. Your mother doesn't have legal standing to fight this eviction. The property is solely in your name, she has no lease, and she hasn't contributed financially. Unless you're willing to negotiate, I'm not. Understood. Mrs. Chen, I heard muffled conversation. Then my mother grabbed the phone. You're putting your own mother on the street. No, I said. You put yourself there when you locked my daughter out in the rain. She's fine. Jesus Christ, Marcus. She's fine. Her core temperature was 96.8 degrees when she got home. That's stage 1 hypothermia. If Mrs. Chen hadn't found her, if she'd stayed out there another hour, she could have gone into stage 2. Confusion, loss of coordination, potential cardiac arrest. But you didn't care about that, did you? You're being ridiculous. You wanted us to know we don't live there anymore. Message received. I hung up. Ms. Parks called back from her own phone 10 minutes later. Mr. Chen, this is Michelle Parks again. I wanted to apologize for that chaos. I've officially withdrawn from representation. For what it's worth, off the record, what your mother did to your daughter was unconscionable. You're well within your rights to evict her. Thank you. One more thing. Be prepared for her to try other angles. She might claim elder abuse, might try to get social services involved, might contact your employer, or try to damage your reputation. Document everything. Keep your lawyer in the loop. I will. She did exactly what Ms. Parks predicted. Saturday morning, someone from Adult Protective Services called. Mr. Chen, we received a report that you're evicting your elderly mother and leaving her homeless. I'm evicting a tenant who endangered my child and hasn't paid rent in 15 years. She's 62, not elderly. She's perfectly capable of finding her own housing. The report says you removed all her furniture. I removed my furniture. Everything in that house was purchased by me. I left her personal belongings, clothing, and basic furniture. Would you like copies of the receipts? That would be helpful, actually. I emailed her everything. Every receipt I could find, every bank record, the deed, the eviction paperwork. Within 2 hours, she called back. Mr. Chen, after reviewing your documentation, we're closing this case. Your mother doesn't meet the criteria for our services, and frankly, this appears to be a landlord-tenant dispute, not an elder abuse situation. I'm sorry you were bothered. Thank you for looking into it. Sunday, My mother left a voicemail on my work phone. I had no idea how she got the number. Marcus, it's Mom. Please, can we talk about this like adults? I know I made a mistake with Emma. I'm sorry. I was just so frustrated that day and I took it out on her, and that was wrong. But we can work through this. You don't have to evict me. We're family. I didn't respond. Monday, she tried a different tactic. She posted on Facebook a long, rambling post about how her ungrateful son was evicting her right before Christmas, how she'd sacrificed everything to raise me, how I was abandoning her after she'd given me everything. The post went semi-viral in our local community group. Dozens of comments calling me heartless, cruel, a terrible son. Then Mrs. Chen commented, I'm usually not one to get involved in family matters, but I feel compelled to share what I witnessed. Last Thursday, I found Mr. Chen's 11-year-old daughter standing in the rain outside this home for over 5 hours. Sandra had changed the locks and refused to let the child inside. The girl was shivering and soaked through. This is the same home that Marcus has been paying for entirely on his own for 15 years, while Sandra has contributed nothing. I've watched Marcus work himself to exhaustion supporting both his daughter and his mother, and I've watched Sandra complain about him to anyone who would listen. This is not a story of an ungrateful son. This is a story of a mother who took advantage of her child's generosity and then endangered his daughter out of spite. The comments shifted dramatically after that. Wait, she locked out an 11-year-old in the rain for 5 hours? He's been paying for everything for 15 years and she's calling him ungrateful? This completely changes the story. What kind of grandmother does that? My mother deleted the post an hour later. Tuesday, she showed up at my apartment building. I watched her from my window as she pressed my buzzer repeatedly. I didn't answer. She stood outside for 20 minutes, pressing the buzzer every 30 seconds before security asked her to leave. Wednesday, she tried calling Emma's school, claiming she was supposed to pick Emma up and needed to know what time dismissal was. The school, already flagged by me about the situation, told her they couldn't release that information without parental consent. And would I like them to note that Sandra Chen was not authorized to pick up Emma? Yes, I said. Yes, I would. Thursday, 1 week after Emma came home in the rain, Robert called with news. Your mother hired another lawyer, David Kramer. He's not great, honestly. Mostly does small claims and traffic tickets. But he filed a motion to delay the eviction, claiming your mother has tenants' rights based on her length of residency. Does she? No. In this state, you need either a lease agreement or proof of paying rent to establish tenancy. She has neither. The judge will toss this out, but it'll delay things by a few days while we respond. How many days? Probably a week. So instead of December 20th, we're looking at December 27th. Fine. Marcus, I have to ask, are you sure you want to go through with this? The holidays are coming up. This is going to be rough emotionally. She locked my daughter out in the rain. I know. I just want to make sure you've thought about the family implications. What family? The one where I paid $500,000 to support my mother, and she thanked me by calling me a deadbeat and endangering my child? That family? Is point taken. The hearing was Friday, December 13th at 9 a.m. I took the morning off work. Robert met me at the courthouse, a grim concrete building with fluorescent lighting and too many people waiting in hallways. My mother was there with David Kramer, a short man in a suit that didn't quite fit. She saw me and her face crumpled. Marcus, please don't speak to my client, Robert said firmly. We went into the courtroom. Judge Patricia Hernandez presiding, 23 years on the bench according to the plaque on her desk. Kramer went first. Your Honor, my client has lived in this property for 15 years. She's established residency. The defendant, petitioner, can't just throw her out without proper notice. Does your client have a lease agreement? Judge Hernandez asked. Well, no, but has she paid rent at any point during these 15 years? No, Your Honor. But there was an understanding. An understanding isn't a lease, Mr. Kramer. What legal basis does your client have for tenancy? Kramer stumbled through an answer about implied contracts and family obligations. Judge Hernandez looked unimpressed. Then Robert presented our case. The deed in my name only. 15 years of mortgage statements. Bank records showing I'd paid for everything. Text messages from my mother asking for money and promising to pay me back someday. Mrs. Chen's written statement about Emma being locked out. Judge Hernandez read everything carefully. Then she looked at my mother. Mrs. Chen, is it true that you changed the locks on this property and refused entry to your granddaughter? I was upset. My son never visits, never brings her by. That's not what I asked. Did you change the locks and refuse entry to the child? Yes. How long was she outside? I don't know. A couple hours? 5 hours, I said quietly. In a thunderstorm. She came home with hypothermia symptoms. Judge Hernandez's expression hardened. Mrs. Chen, this property is owned solely by your son. You have no lease agreement. You've contributed nothing financially, and you endangered a child. I'm denying your motion. The eviction stands. You have until December 27th to vacate the premises. If you're not out by then, the sheriff will remove you. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. My mother started crying. Loud, hiccuping sobs. I don't have anywhere to go. Marcus, please. I stood up and walked out. The next week was quieter. My mother tried calling a few more times from different numbers, but I didn't answer. She sent emails that I forwarded to Robert without reading. I spent my time doing something I should have done years ago, looking for a better apartment. With my mother's mortgage off my shoulders, I could afford afford a real 2-bedroom, maybe even a place with laundry, a dishwasher, a parking spot. I started looking at listings, found a place for $1,850 a month, more than my current $1,200. But now that I wasn't paying my mother's $23.72s, I could actually afford it. 2 bedrooms, updated kitchen, laundry in-unit, 10-minute drive from Emma's school. I submitted an application. I also put my mother's house on the market, listed it for $425,000, fair market value, my realtor said. With property values up and the renovations I'd paid for over the years, I'd probably clear $150,000 after the mortgage was paid off. That money would go into Emma's college fund, every single cent. On December 26th, my mother sent one final email. Marcus, I know you'll never forgive me. I know I destroyed our relationship, but please understand. I was scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of being poor again after your father died. Scared of becoming a burden. So I convinced myself I deserved your help, that you owed me for raising you. I realize now how twisted that thinking was. I'm staying with Betty from book club temporarily. I've applied for senior housing and should hear back in a few weeks. I'm going to be okay. I hope someday you can forgive me. Not for my sake. I don't deserve forgiveness, but for yours. So you're not carrying this anger forever. I'm sorry I hurt Emma. That's the part I regret most. I love you, Mom. I read it 3 times. Then I saved it in a folder and didn't respond. December 27th came. Robert called at 9:15 a.m. She's out. Left yesterday evening, actually. Place is empty except for some trash in the garage. Good. I'm sorry it came to this, Marcus. I'm not. 3 months later, the house sold for $432,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage, closing costs, and realtor fees, I cleared $168,000. I put $150,000 into a $529 college savings plan for Emma. The rest went toward moving costs and furniture for our new apartment, the 2-bedroom with laundry and a dishwasher and actual space to breathe. Emma loved her new room. We painted it teal, her favorite color. Got her a real bed, a real desk, bookshelves for her growing collection. She was happy for the first time in months. One day, about 4 months after the eviction, Mrs. Chen stopped me in the grocery store. Mr. Chen, how are you? How's Emma? We're good. Really good, actually. I'm glad. You know, I saw your mother last week at the senior center. She asked about you and Emma. Oh, I told her you were doing well, that Emma was thriving. She cried. Mrs. Chen touched my arm gently. I know what she did was terrible, but I think she really does regret it. Maybe, I said. But regret doesn't undo harm, and it doesn't rebuild trust. No, Mrs. Chen agreed. It doesn't. But maybe someday. Maybe, I said. But not today. She nodded, understanding. We talked about other things. Her garden, Emma's good grades, the weather. Then I went home to my daughter, to our apartment, to the life I'd finally built that was actually ours. People ask me sometimes if I feel guilty, if I regret cutting my mother off, evicting her, refusing to reconcile. The answer is no, because every time I start to doubt myself, I remember my daughter sitting on that hallway floor, soaking wet and shivering, asking me what a deadbeat was. I remember that I spent 15 years giving my mother everything while she gave me nothing but contempt. I remember that she chose to hurt my child because she was angry at me. And I remember that I only get one life, one chance to show my daughter what she's worth, one chance to teach her that love isn't supposed to hurt, isn't supposed to cost everything, isn't supposed to leave you empty. So no, I don't regret it. I regret that it took me 15 years and $483,817.60 to learn the lesson, but I don't regret protecting my daughter, and I never will. Emma asked me once, about 6 months after everything, if we'd ever see Grandma again. Do you want to? I asked. She thought about it for a long time. Then, I don't know, she was mean to me, but she's still Grandma. If you ever want to see her, when you're older, when you're ready, that's your choice. But it's also your choice not to, and I'll support whatever you decide. What about you? Do you miss her? I thought about that, really thought about it. I miss who I thought she was, I finally said. But that person didn't exist. The real person, the one who used me and hurt you, I don't miss her at all. Emma nodded. That makes sense. She hasn't asked to see her grandmother. Maybe someday she will. Maybe she won't. Either way, she'll be okay. Because unlike my mother, I actually love my daughter. Not for what she can give me. Not for how she makes me look. Not because she's useful. Just because she exists. Just because she's enough. And that's what family should be.